Damn, Kyle, you going off.
Hold on.
You need to leave.
Bruh.
What's good, y'all? It's your boy Cam back with another YouTube video, and today we've been checking out another Thomas Sowell wisdom video. We've been checking out a lot of videos from Thomas Sowell about like where black culture comes from and the truth about slavery and stuff like that. And you guys seem to really enjoy it, and I have as well. So I saw this video, the truth about George Washington owning slaves. So before the video starts, man, make sure you guys smash the like button right now, subscribe if you're new. And let's get right into this video, man. What is the truth about George Washington owning slaves, man? Let's get it. We good?
Bring to you the stand of one of the founding... In this presentation, we will bring to you the stand of one of the founding fathers of the United States, George Washington, as regard to slavery.
Okay.
This extract is gotten from the book, Black Rednecks and White Liberals by Dr. Thomas Sowell. George Washington was one of those who had inherited slaves,
What's
and
the book called again? Black.
Dr. Thomas Sowell. George Washington.
Sorry.
This extract is gotten from the book, Black Rednecks and White Liberals by Dr. Thomas Sowell. George Washington was one of those who had inherited slaves, and, dying childless, freed his slaves in his will, effective on the death of his wife. His will also provide that slaves too old...
I didn't know that. I didn't know George Washington didn't have kids. I swear, I learned something new every time I watch Thomas Sowell, bro. I love it, though. I love it.
The death of his wife. His will also provide that slaves too old or too beset with bodily infirmities, not able to take care of themselves, should be taken care of by his estate, and that the children were to be taught to read in his estate. In fact, he continued to pay for the support of some freed slaves, for decades after his death, in accordance with his will.
Wow. I didn't know that either.
The tone, as well as the length of it, showed his concerns. The Emancipation Clause stands out from the rest of Washington's will, in the unique forcefulness of its language. Elsewhere in it, Washington used the standard legal expressions, I give and bequeath, it is my will and direction. In one instance he politely wrote, by way of advice, I recommend to my executors. But the Emancipation Clause rings with the voice of command. It has the iron firmness of a field order. I do hereby expressly forbid the sale of any slave I may die possessed of, under any pretext whatsoever. Long before reaching this point in his personal life, George Washington had said of slavery as a national issue, there is not a man living who wishes more sincerely than I do to see a plan adopted for the abolition of it. But, like Burke, he saw a need for a plan of some sort, rather than simply freeing millions of slaves in a newly emerging nation surrounded by threatening powers, just as the freed slaves themselves would be surrounded by a hostile population. In short, the moral principle was easy, but figuring out how to apply it in practice was not. Moreover, in a country with an elected government, how the white population at large felt could not be ignored. When Washington congratulated Lafayette for the latter's purchase of a plantation where former slaves could live, he added, would to God a like spirit would diffuse itself generally into the minds of the people of this country, but I despair of seeing it. He saw legislation as the only way to end slavery and said that a legislator who did that would get his vote. Slaves that Washington took north with him after completing his terms as president, in effect freeing them, on the sly, as one biographer put it, at a time when to free them officially could have set off controversies. George Washington was, after all, trying to hold together a fragile coalition of states bearing little resemblance to the world power that the United States would become in later centuries. As a slave owner in Virginia, Washington thought of ways he might sublet much of his estate, in which his current slaves might be hired by the year, as laborers by tenant farmers. He was clearly casting about for some way, as he put it in a letter, to liberate a certain species of property which I possess very repugnantly to my own feelings. But there were no takers. Washington's behavior as a slave owner is also worth noting. Beginning in the early 1770s, he rarely bought a slave and he would not sell one, unless the slave consented, which never happened. Not selling
Hold on.
1770s, he rarely bought a slave and he would not sell one, unless the slave consented, which never happened. Not selling slaves was an economic loss.
So would that mean like he actually like cared for them and stuff like that? Like, hold on.
Sell one, unless the slave consented, which never happened.
So So he cared for. So does that mean like he cared for the slaves and this like because they never cause like he said they never consented to wanting to leave George. So does that mean like they felt better with George Washington than anybody else? Right?
Not selling slaves was an economic loss.
So he was taking a loss, but he was doing like a good thing.
Slave labor on a plantation with soil as poor as Mount Vernon brought in.
Hold on, what?
Not selling slaves was an economic loss.
Yeah.
Slave labor on a plantation with soil as poor as Mount Vernon brought in little or nothing. The only profit a man in his position would make was by selling slaves to states where agriculture was more flourishing. Washington would not. I am principled against selling Negroes as you would do cattle at a market. From 1775 until his death, the slave population at Mount Vernon more than doubled. Even a sympathetic biography of George Washington, for example, said, he had helped to create a new world but had allowed into it an infection that he feared would eventually destroy it. This statement is breathtaking in its assumptions. That he feared would eventually destroy it. Even to have made slavery a public issue at the time would have accomplished nothing except to jeopardize the survival of a fragile coalition of newly independent states. Yet this man who contributed more than anyone else to the introduction of free republican government in the modern world is widely seen as being under a moral cloud, as if he had chosen to introduce or abet slavery. Washington's actual behavior illustrated what Adam Smith had said decades earlier, in his theory of moral sentiments, that a man prompted by humanity and benevolence, when he cannot establish the right, will not disdain to ameliorate the wrong. If you like this kind of material...
Oh wow, that's pretty crazy, man. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. I want to read some of the comments before we go, man. Thank you for sharing this information about an admirable character. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was taking losses, he'd make them consent first before he'd sell them, and then they wouldn't even they say no, I want to stay with you, George, and he just say yes and still take the loss. That's actually really crazy. That's actually crazy, man. This was taught to me in 6th grade. Heck not, man. We'll learn. We do not learn this. We did not learn this type of stuff, man. This was taught to me in 6th grade in 1971. 1971? God. Not today. Yeah, they ain't telling us all this today, man. That's crazy. I already knew about George Washington's will. I didn't know about his estate and stuff. That's pretty crazy, man. His estate probably is not still here, or is it still here? I don't really know. Y'all let me know in the comment section below, man. Thomas Jefferson also had the same beliefs and freed them as well, and also did General Robert E. Lee. Wow. Should be shouting this from the rooftops. Wow, man. I actually like Thomas Sowell because it's like stuff I didn't know, bro. They'll teach us some of this. They'll teach us some of this stuff in school. So I like learning it with you guys. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some of y'all probably knew this. Some of y'all didn't. Some of y'all learning it with me. You know what I'm saying? So let me know if you wanted to. But yeah, man, that's the end of the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below what else I should check out by Thomas Sowell, man. I love learning stuff with you guys, man. So just let me know what else I should check out. And I'll see y'all in the next video, man. Peace.